And today's adventure is a visit to Wilson's Creek National Battlefield in Republic, Missouri. This is the National Park Visitor Center right here. And we're going to head in there and check it out a bit. Then we're going to take, I think it's an 8-stop road tour of the battlefield, and we'll walk around a little bit at a couple of the sites. So let's go visit Wilson Creek Battlefield. This is at tour stop 1. This is the area where the Confederate division was camped, about 2,500 men. Beginning of the battle, this is where they were surprised by Lyon's troops, and they were driven from this spot near Gibson's Mill, and they retired to the south. So this is the beginning of the fight. It was right in this area. This area here, as it says, is the Ray Cornfield. We'll be visiting the Ray House in a minute. And it was from here that the Union regulars had crossed the creek in this area, and they were attacking a battery, Confederate battery, might have been Pulaski's battery. But the Confederate infantry drove the regulars back in this area. We're here at the Ray House, and John Ray, the owner of the home, and his wife Roxana lived here with a slave woman, Rhoda, and her 4 children. And during the time of the battle, well, he came out on the porch here, see in a minute, and he watched the battle from his porch while the women and children went into the cellar. House wasn't damaged during the fight, but some cannon shells landed in the backyard. This house was a hospital for the Confederate troops during the battle. And later, General Nathaniel Lyon, the Union general who was killed here, was brought to this house. His body was brought here until it was later moved. So there was a fight out there in the fields behind this little orchard. Captain Plummer and the regular troops of the Union crossed Wilson's Creek. We're heading up this way. I believe it was men from Rains Division that drove them back. And so the Confederates held this position throughout the battle. And here is the Ray House. And this is the Ray House. And the tour guide just mentioned to us that there are actually 11 children in this house at the time of the battle, along with adults, that went down in the basement as Mr. Ray sat on the porch. We're at tour stop 3, which is Price's headquarters view. We're not at the headquarters. That might be his headquarters down there. He was one of the main Confederate generals here. The other one being McCulloch. That could be the headquarters. We're going to head down and take a look. And to our right, we're going to go to a cannon position, Confederate cannon position, which was Pulaski's Arkansas battery. And they were instrumental in slowing down General Lyon's advance up what's called Bloody Hill. And they also helped in repulsing the regular Union troops that crossed Wilson's Creek to this side. So let's go see Pulaski's battery and maybe Price's headquarters. And we reached Pulaski's artillery battery position. He had 4 cannons here, which supported the infantry and also was used in counter battery fire. He had 2 men killed, 1 wounded. And he would fire from this position to Bloody Hill, which is right across the way over there. We'll visit that later in the tour. So this battery was very effective that day. This is Wilson's Creek, We're just down the hill from Pulaski's Battery. Price's headquarters are to our right. There are many accounts of the troops crossing rather easily across this creek during the time of the battle, August 10th, 1861. Today it is April 14th, so the creek may have a little more water in it. The tour guide said that there were only about 10% of the trees that we see on the battlefield at that time. He said the local Native Americans would burn the fields to produce more grass, and so they burned down the trees, so there were quite a few less trees here at that time. And here we see Price's headquarters. So now we're on the, this would be the west side of the creek. And there are his headquarters right there. Bloody Hill is to our right. There's a trail leading up to the hill. I don't know if we can actually see it from here. I don't think we can. This was probably an area where many of the Confederate troops would organize for the attacks on Bloody Hill. And probably further in the distance also. So we're in the area of Sigel's attack on the morning of August 10th. Sigel was here with about 1,200 German troops, and his plan with General Lyon was that Sigel would march down here to the southern area of the battlefield and wait for the guns of Lyon. When he heard those guns up on the northern end, he would attack from this position in this area. Up on that hill there, Sigel would have had his artillery that began shelling the Confederate cavalrymen that were camped here by Wilson's Creek. And that scattered the cavalrymen, and Sigel crossed the creek with his men. And you can maybe see two cannon pieces right there in the center of the picture. He crossed here with at least some of his artillery, and he advanced toward the camera position right here. The Confederates would have been retreating from behind me into the woods. So we're standing actually what's called Sigel's second position in the Sharps farm. What's called the stubble field here in front of me, and the cornfield, which I believe is right back in here. The Confederate cavalrymen would have retreated into the woods beyond. And from here, he would have driven the cavalry back for the second time. Then he advanced to his final position, which we're going to go to now. That was right across the Wire Road, which was the main road through this area. And let's go see what happened there. This is Sigel's final position. The Confederates regrouped from behind us here with infantry, and they charged Sigel's position, which was primarily up on the hill in the distance, and routed them, partly because Sigel mistook the Confederates for Union reinforcements, and so he was somewhat surprised, and his troops fled down a couple of roads behind that hill, probably pursued, I guess, by the cavalry to some degree. And the infantry here, for the Confederate infantry, turned and went to the northern end of the battle and reinforced the Confederate attacks on Bloody Hill there. Sigel's final position. On this battle, in the course of this battle, there were 2,500 casualties, killed and wounded, out of, I think, about 18,000 troops. So it was a small battle relative to some others that were to come, but great in the casualties. We're standing at tour stop 6, which is the site of Gilboa's Confederate battery of 4 pieces. And right before us is Bloody Hill. The tablet here says that these cannon particularly assisted in the final and third charge of the Confederates up that hill. There'd be about 4,000 Union troops up there, supported by a couple of batteries of artillery. I think it was Tottens artillery that we might be able to see at the very crest of this hill. I think that's probably stop 7 in that area. You may see just a piece of the cannon peeking out over the grass there. So these lines were very close. And it says that Union cavalry were harassing this position with musket fire. That's how close these positions are to each other. This is tour stop 7, Bloody Hill. Head up this way. Tottens battery will be in front of us, and we'll go to the site where Nathaniel Lyon was mortally wounded. We're approaching Tottens battery position. And this is the position of the Union battery under Captain Totten. Very strong position here, supported by infantry. Confederates will be attacking from the right of the picture and from behind me. 3 times, and 3 times with terrible casualties. Here is the Nathaniel Lyon marker where he was mortally wounded. He did express a premonition of his death at this battle earlier, I believe earlier that very morning or the night before. And after he was killed, Major Sturgis took command of the troops, the Union Army here, and decided, as the men were running out of ammunition, to retreat back to Springfield, and so ended the battle. The Confederates did not pursue, as they were also running low on ammo and because of their casualties. And the effect of this battle was basically that Missouri, although it had much guerrilla warfare and other battles in the state, remained in the Union. And in March 1862, in the Battle of Pea Ridge, that kind of sealed it. That was in Arkansas, and that kind of sealed that Missouri would remain in the Union. So we completed our tour here of Wilson Creek Battlefield. Hope you enjoyed coming along.